This is FilmBookCast.
FilmBookCast.
FilmBookCast, the official podcast of FilmBook. Get ready for the latest in film news, TV show news, and theatrical reviews. FilmBook's podcast starts now.
Hello everyone, and welcome to FilmBookCast, the official podcast of FilmBook. My name is Chris Banks. If you're tuning in to FilmBookCast for the first time, what I do on this podcast is discuss the latest film and TV show news, as well as review an in-theater film. You can find more FilmBookCast on film-book.com by using the search term FilmBookCast. You can also email us at podcast@film-book.com. with FilmBookCast in the subject line. Let's jump right into it this week. This week in movie trailers, Sony dropped a trailer for a film called Uncharted. It's based on the best-selling, critically acclaimed video game series, Uncharted, and it introduces audiences to the young street-smart Nathan Drake, played by Tom Holland. It showcases his first treasure-hunting adventure with wisecracking partner Victor Sully Sullivan, played by Mark Wahlberg. In an action-adventure epic that spans the globe, the two go in dangerous pursuit of the greatest treasure never found, while also tracking clues that may lead to Nathan's long-lost brother. It's directed by Ruben Fleischer. Check out the trailer for Uncharted. It'll be in theaters February 18th. Another film that caught my eye this week is called The Accursed. It's directed by Elizabeta Vidovic. It's a horror thriller. Hannah has spent the last 20 years suppressing the evil force that has placed her bloodline, only to have a family member knowingly release it, forcing her to kill or be killed. Check out the trailer for The Accursed. Family Never Forgets. It'll be in theaters November 12th. The last trailer we'll check out this week actually was released last weekend, but we haven't talked about it. The Batman. It'll be in theaters March 4th. I have never seen a darker Batman, have you? Matt Reeves is going to give us, I think, one of the most unique installments in the Batman franchise. I love to see the Riddler back in the fold, and this Riddler is much different than Jim Carrey's comic book version. And I personally love the Penguin character, so it's going to be really cool to see this version of the Batman. Check out a very dark trailer. The Batman will be in theaters March 4th. That's it for movie trailers. This week in TV trailers, Jeff Bezos was not kidding when he ordered a Game of Thrones-like series. The Wheel of Time is debuting November 19th, and the Prime Video just released a trailer titled Moraine's Quest. We don't know who the dragon is, but we must find the dragon before the Earth falls into darkness forever. A very cool-looking trailer. Check out the trailer for The Wheel of Time. It'll debut on Prime Video November 19th. Another TV trailer that dropped this week is from Disney+. The World According to Jeff Goldblum is a documentary series in which he pulls back the curtain on a seemingly familiar object to reveal a world of astonishing connections, fascinating science, and a whole lot of big ideas. Check out the trailer for The World According to Jeff Goldblum. It'll be released on Disney+ November 12th. The last TV trailer we'll check out this week is the Season 2 return of Walker. A widowed father returns to Austin after 1 year attempting to reconnect with his children, navigate clashes with his family, and find common ground with his new partner, while growing increasingly suspicious of his wife's death. Check out the trailer for Season 2 of Walker. It'll debut October 28th. That's it for TV trailers. This week in streaming news, we have to talk about the big elephant in the room because it's almost like the only thing streaming is Dune, directed by Denis Villeneuve. Now, I've read some reviews. I haven't seen the film yet, so I stay far away from the reviews, but I guess it's way too beautiful to just watch on our televisions because the film is just too big to see on your TV. From all the reviews I've read so far, I would say stay away from watching Dune in your house if you can. Go and see this film in the theater. It's much better if you see this film as it was shot, which is in IMAX. But Dune is now streaming on HBO Max. This week in TV news, Sopranos creator David Chase is reportedly in talks with Warner Media to create a Sopranos prequel series for HBO Max. The news comes hot off the trails of the Sopranos prequel film The Many Saints of Newark. Warner Media CEO Anna Sarnoff told Deadline that the studio was thrilled at how Many Saints was performing and that the media company was talking to David about a new series. Chase said he'd only return if the events of the series took place in between The Many Saints of Newark and when his hit HBO series The Soprano began, which was in 1998. Another stipulation was that David Chase had to write the series with Terry Winter, who co-wrote The Sopranos with him. No official decision has been made yet, but HBO Max is already betting on the prequel and sequel potential of two other beloved franchises, House of Dragon, which is a prequel to Game of Thrones, and Just Like That, which is a sequel series to Sex and the City. So we'll keep up with news if HBO moves forward with David Chase about a prequel Sopranos series. Very exciting TV news. Some more TV news. NBC has picked up Lopez vs. Lopez, a family comedy starring George Lopez and his daughter Mayan. Lopez vs. Lopez is a working-class family comedy about dysfunction, reconnection, and all the pain and joy in between. Written by Wolf, a co-executive producer of The Conners, he and Helford will both executive produce the pilot. It centers around Wolf, a Salvadorian-American writer who came up with the idea and worked on it with George and Mayan Lopez. Very exciting TV news from ABC. The last bit of TV news we'll check out this week, Brett Tucker has joined the cast of Fox's dance dramedy The Big Leap in a heavily recurring role. The Big Leap is a show within a show that takes viewers on a journey of self-acceptance, body positivity, and empowerment at any age. It's described as a modern tale about second chances, chasing your dreams and taking back what's yours. The show revolves around a group of diverse, down-on-their-luck characters attempting to change their lives and participating in a potentially life-ruining reality dance show that builds up to a live production of Swan Lake. Tucker will play Linus, a hunky boom operator who works on set and is a potential love interest for Julia. The Big Leap airs Mondays at 9 p.m. on Fox, so look for Tucker soon. That's it for TV news. This week in film news was some tragic news as the film Rust is filming in New Mexico and actor Alec Baldwin fired a prop gun with a live round that ended up killing the cinematographer Hyla Hutchins and injured director Joel Souza. The assistant director, who was unnamed in the account, picked up a prop pistol from a cart and gave it to Baldwin, yelling "cold gun." The term indicates that the gun does not contain any live rounds. According to an affidavit signed by a detective at the scene, the assistant director was unaware that the prop gun contained live rounds when he handed it to Baldwin. And as we still have much to learn about the events that took place on the set of Rust, I want to take this opportunity to speak to any young filmmaker that is making films listening to this podcast. If you are making a movie and you want your movie to be the best movie that you want, you must use union people to do that, especially with props and safety and firearms and all this stuff that makes shooting fun, but also dangerous. Please always use union people. Moving on somehow, Ryan Gosling is currently in talks to play Ken, opposite Margot Robbie in a Barbie movie. Fitting, right? Ryan Gosling is in final negotiations to play Barbie's iconic boyfriend opposite Margot Robbie in the upcoming film based on the Mattel toy. The first live-action film about the 62-year-old doll is being produced by Robbie under her Lucky Chap banner. This will be Gerwig's third directorial film following her debut Lady Bird in Little Women. Denzel Washington is directing an upcoming film titled A Journal for Jordan, and it just got its release date moved from December 10th to December 22nd. It's about First Sergeant Charles Monroe King, played by Michael B. Jordan, before he is killed in action in Baghdad. He authors a journal for his son, intending to tell him how to live a decent life despite growing up without a father. That's it for movie news. All right. For this week's movie review, we're checking out The Last Duel. It's directed by Ridley Scott. It stars Matt Damon, Adam Driver, Jodie Comer, Ben Affleck, and many others. Jean de Courage is a respected knight known for his bravery and skill on the battlefield. Jacques Legree is a squire whose intelligence and eloquence make him one of the most admired nobles in court. When Legree viciously assaults Courage's wife, she steps forward to accuse her attacker. an act of bravery and defiance that puts her own life in jeopardy. The ensuing trial by combat, a grueling duel to the death, places the fate of all three in God's hands. The Last Duel just came out in theaters, and I'm going to do a more in-depth review, and I'm going to try to do that moving forward. I try to not give out the plot, because in case you haven't seen it, I want you to go see the movie. But this movie is a very well-done, dense piece. So we have no choice but to talk about the storyline and what happens in the film. So, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the film, pause this podcast and pick it up after you watch it. The movie was inspired by a real combat in medieval France. It takes place in the 14th century. At this period of time in the world, the law is really new, and it's very theologic. There's a lot of trial by combat, and the winner is obviously crowned as not the liar. You know what I mean? And that's how they really, we didn't have logic yet. It's way before the American Revolution. So these components that are within our law, such as logic and truth and validity, and the processes that we have to get to whether something is valid or truthful, that wasn't around yet. The king is very young and crazy, right? I mean, he's basically a kid. King Charles is played by Alex Lothar, and he's very young, and he's borderline, crazy, but he's really just a kid. And you can tell what we don't understand about what made our country so unique before the last few years was the soundness of our laws, and we got to those sound laws, and it took a very long time, hundreds of years. But the Constitution itself really stands for a logical, self-representative, free form of government. And that was a first in the world. When you watch The Last Duel, it's very familiar to us because, if you watch Game of Thrones, you're familiar with the king, you're familiar with everything trickles down from the king, and that's how the world was set up, essentially, before America. So when you get a taste of King Charles, you see that everything is built around this one man, right? And it's really kind of strange, because we're living in a time where individual politicians are trying to tell us that, they alone can fix things, and they want us to blindly trust them. And it really, when you watch a movie like The Last Duel, you see why we don't do that anymore. Why there aren't any kings anymore, really, in the modern world. Even Britain has given up that hierarchical type of government. It still has it in the institution, within the institution of government, but the king or queen doesn't make any decisions anymore. When The Last Duel took place, the king made every decision, and everything was relative to whatever the king wanted. Adam Driver plays a squire named Jacques Legree. He's a handsome womanizer, but he's talented. He's a hot shot. And Matt Damon plays the iron soldier, the patriot of France, who really only is loyal to the king and to the country. When you get introduced to Matt Damon's character, he kind of rubs you the wrong way. But as we go throughout the story, and the story is carved up into chapters. We have the truth according to Jean de Corot, we have the truth according to Jacques Legree, and then we have the truth according to Marguerite, which is the wife. And the matter in question is Jacques Legree forced himself upon Marguerite. And at the time, this happened all the time. But at that time, if a woman complained about it, she could get killed, not to mention her husband be reprimanded. And her husband is one of the most well-known soldiers in all of France. Marguerite chooses to tell Jean. It's a dangerous situation because Marguerite really could be killed for what she has said. Luckily, Jean believes her, and he really puts his own reputation on the line to defend his wife. In so doing, he's also defending his own character, and he believes his own country, because you can't allow another man to make an advance on your wife when you're married to her. And then the movie does a phenomenal job. Ridley Scott does an amazing job with this film in how he not only shoots it, it's amazing cinematography, but the way they cut up the chapters and the way they present each chapter to you really hooks you and keeps you into the seat. Once we move over to The Truth According to Jacques Legree, which is Adam Driver's character, there's elements of the assault that is different. There are different aspects of the truth that Adam Driver's character lets out, and he paints reality with a certain type of paintbrush. And any American who lived through the last 4 years can understand what that looks like when political leaders are really just lying and trying to massage the lie into looking like the truth. As you are seeing the differences between Jean and Jacques' story, you can kind of glean what the truth is. Marguerite does a great job really being brave and leading at a time when women really were not even looked at or considered or even thought about. So for her to really lead Jean into the future, there are many moments throughout the movie when Matt Damon's character is really slipping, either mentally or physically, and Marguerite really pulls him together and makes him understand that you have to stand up for your wife, and this is at a time when the law was really not about the truth more than it is about the power of men. Because if you're in a certain position, you can will a lie to be true. That is what our Constitution was supposed to get rid of in the world, according to governments, right? That's what we as Americans enjoyed for a very long time, until we had a president who just, destroyed everything. But you see how King Charles himself could destroy everything if he let certain truths out into the public sphere. And again, any American can see parallels to our own lives that we just lived through. The film is a phenomenal movie. It's long. It's over 2.5 hours. But it never felt that long because you were hooked. And the way they tell the story, you don't get to the duel until the very end. And what a brutal scenario, right? You have a accuser and defendant, and instead of arguing your case in front of a judge like we do in the American system, France back then, you dueled to the death. That's how the truth came out, is whoever won was perceived to be the truth teller. And that's what the Constitution of the United States got rid of, is, the rule of law, the truth is always supposed to weigh more heavily than anything else. And that's what we kind of have to get back to in this country, is understanding that our Constitution set up a government built upon truth and nothing else. And for many decades, we've been operating outside of those parameters, and we have to kind of get back to it. Not in that we have to go rewind the clock, but we have to get back to constitutional basics. Because when you see the movie like The Last Duel, you understand that you can't have a system of justice that is willed by men, meaning people. People cannot be who make decisions about what right is and what wrong is. That's not why this country exists. The power must be in the law, which must be built upon truth and nothing else. That is what the Constitution was forged for. The men who created the Constitution debated it for years. It's a piece of paper that was debated for years, and that's the only reason why it's lasted 300 years. That it only got challenged 243 years into its existence by some man who thinks that he can act like King Charles. But that's why it's so important to get our own understanding of the law to some collective baseline, because we live in a country that the law is supposed to dictate to us what is or isn't good. And we're just all mixed up in this country. And when you watch a movie like The Last Duel, you see why the framers started America. You understand that you can't have a system of laws built around one man. Our country, the system of laws is built around all of us. We just have to get back to it. To even see parallels between our lives and the people of the Crusades tells us in America that something went wrong, that we did something wrong. Maybe many things, maybe a lot of things. But we should not be living parallel existences to anybody in the Crusades, because our Constitution, our government, our country was started to help push the world forward, which we have. But we ourselves have now fallen down. And I won't give out the plot. I won't give out the result of the duel, but I will start to end it by saying that Marguerite plays the biggest role in this movie. Matt Damon plays an equally big part. Jean is a character that I think is overlooked but needs to be analyzed in a deeper way because he is a patriot's patriot. You know, for all of his own insecurities or problems within himself, he is a patriot's patriot. And Marguerite has a line that I think that she's wrong in, where she says that he is fighting for his own ego. While there's a component that's true to that, he's also fighting for his wife, for his country, and for his king, because he believes that if a man is able to force himself upon another man's wife and can lie about it, that is a bigger affront to the country of France than just about anything, because the country has to stand for what's right. And in Matt Damon and Jean's mind, rape is wrong. And I like them focusing on that aspect of the story, because that is why the American enlighteners and framers of our Constitution created our form of government, because the law has to be what is standing by what's right. The law has to be what is right. That is what the Constitution tried to forge in this country, and that's what we have to pick up and complete in our generation. Ben Affleck plays a very small role in this movie. It's an important role, but it's not a big role. And I know the movie's been billed as like a Matt Damon, Ben Affleck reunion, but Adam Driver plays a much bigger role in the movie than Ben Affleck does. But he does a great job in showing you the corruption of a king and that kind of form of government. You know, it's really well done. The cinematography is incredible. The writing is hooking and full and great. I had a great time watching the movie. The theater was pretty full. So go check out The Last Duel. It's a great medieval film, but also has really scary parallels to today. I'd give it an easy 8.5 out of 10. Don't mind the hair. I think the characters work. Everything works. Costuming works. It's a really well done film. Go check out The Last Duel. It's in theaters. It's directed by Ridley Scott, and I hope you like it as much as I did. Thanks so much for checking us out this week. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of FilmBookCast. You can find more of my work on film-book.com. Just search for Chris Banks or FilmBookCast. You can also find me on Twitter. I'm at cbanksy. That's S-E-E Banksy. I'm also on Instagram at @TheChrisBanks. If you listen to this podcast on iTunes or another podcast service, please rate and review this episode. If you're listening on our YouTube channel, FilmBook Podcast, please like our video, subscribe to our channel, and leave us a comment in the comment section. It really helps other people discover our podcast. Please also be becoming one of our patrons on Patreon at patreon.com/filmbook. Your support helps us create more engaging content. You'll find our Patreon link below in the description. If you want to tweet about this podcast, just use the hashtag FilmBookCast. Tune in next week for the next episode of the FilmBookCast. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you then.